Girls, so I just finished Pillion. Gay movie with your gay ass. If you don't want spoilers for... Ow! The whiplash made me punch my glasses, which hit my face. Ow. Hello. Yeah, so spoilers ahead if you haven't seen the movie or you plan on seeing the movie. Anything like that. But, wow, I've never been so conflicted about a movie before. And I don't mean in the terms of the quality of the movie, just actually by the storyline of the movie, which is great. Like, as a movie, I thought it was really good. I thought it was really, really good. I fucking, loved it. But, boy, it's a movie where I'm truly, truly conflicted about the ending. Because I don't want to, because, I don't know, because a lot of the things that happen throughout that movie to the main character, Colin, it's Ray, Alexander Skarsgård's character, is so, demeaning and degrading and cruel to him for, most of the movie. And I'm am I not understanding, this kind of culture? Is this, because he seems to love it. And I don't want to be, a holier-than-thou person who's well, he shouldn't love this, because it's, because I think this movie's a kind of a center point of this movie is, opening people up to, that sort of, kinkiness, or, that kink culture. So, that's the thing. I'm watching this movie, and I'm is this meant to be portrayed in a negative light? Or am I just, do I not get it? Am I truly... What's it, what the fuck, what's her name? What's the bitch? Pollyanna. Am I Miss Pollyanna in, not really, I was oh my god, this sucks, the situation that he's in. Because to me, and also I feel you're meant to think that it sucks. Because the way that it slowly grows into him, lashing out at, Ray, because he just wants to, feel he's loved by someone, at least, sometimes, you know? He just wants to feel somebody's there for him. Especially after his fucking mother died. Ray doesn't even go to Colin's mother's funeral in it. So I'm pretty sure, unless I really missed the message of the movie, I think you're not meant to Ray that much. And then when you get this, because Ray always has, he has little tiny moments of, it seems like they're having a connection, and then he always pulls away. And I think that's the consecutive situation for the movie. That's what happens consecutively throughout the movie. He keeps, reeling Colin, he starts developing a thing for Colin, and then as soon as the connection gets deep enough, he pulls away. And that keeps going and going throughout the entire movie. And this connection he feels that he's pulling away from gets deeper and deeper and deeper as he goes throughout the movie. And then, again, spoilers, at the end of the movie, he's okay, I'll do what Colin wanted, which is to have a day off where we can just act like a regular couple. Where we just, where we can just act like a regular couple and just do, live and exist together, you know? I don't know, and not be, super hypersexual, just, have fun. And then this point of, kind of more emotional intimacy comes to a head where they're in a park and they're wrestling, and then, Ray kisses Colin, and it's super sweet and, lovely, and then Colin can see in Ray's face that he's, something's put him off, or something, he's scared of something, or the vibe of the tone of the scene has noticeably changed, and and Ray's facial expression. So I think that's him realizing that he was falling in love with Colin, and then he leaves. He does, and then he leaves. Without telling Colin, he literally, and when he says leave, he leaves, Colin by, he literally moves out of his house without telling Colin or anything. He literally, just disappears. Because I think he's very afraid of being in love. So the more I'm talking about it, the more I get it. I think I like, not that I didn't get like it wasn't a thing of like I didn't get it in a way that made me dislike the movie. It was more just like I didn't know, like I was interested to see like how you're supposed to feel watching that movie, or like the intended meaning behind the scenes conveyed. But fuck, man, it was so conflicting. But like, yeah, and at the end of the movie, Colin makes a Grindr account appealing to his like great sense of devotion, and he starts a relationship like the one he had with Ray with another man. But then there's this last shot of Ray right before the credits roll where it's like, I don't know, it seems like there's like a sense of unhappiness there, like a real, like a sense of like he just seems like lost a little bit and defeated, or like there just seems to be like an underlying sadness behind his eyes. And I think that, I don't know, like that's the thing, the really depressing part of the movie is like, is this just like the pattern that Colin falls into now? Is this like, you know, there's a fucking Hummer limousine. Hello? Something you don't see every day. But is the thing is like, he feels like he's gonna find love in this sort of dynamic, so he continues to fall into it? Is that the idea? Like, I don't get it. Like, the end, the true, like, Alexander Skarsgård's part, like, the ending of his character, I more understand, now that talking it through. But, yeah, Colin, he, like, I'm trying to understand whether, I don't think the idea is that he's happy in the new situation. He's like, I think he like longs for the love that he could have had with Ray, so he like is, okay, this makes more sense. I think he longs for like the love he could have had with Ray, so he's like playing the scenario again with another person and hoping for a different result. Maybe? I really want to know what people think of this movie, and not that it will impact kind of like, my feeling of the film is positive. I left the film with, like, a real sense of, like, I was compelled and I was moved by it. But I'm just, like, thinking, like, what do people take from the ending of this movie? Because what I take from it is that it's quite a sad ending. It's quite a sad ending to the movie. Like, Alexander Skarsgård, Ray, runs away from Colin because he's not ready to be in love with somebody. Like, he is in love with Colin, but I don't think he's ready, so he runs away and moves his whole life. And I think that's why he takes on this, like, this sort of, dynamic, like, with people where he's the alpha and he is, like, is submissive with him. I think it's, like, so he can have all the intimacy and sex and things that he can have all the things in a relationship that aren't to do with love or intimacy. Because I don't think that this, like, because that's the thing, what I was talking about, like, I don't want to kink shame, or I don't want to, like, be misunderstanding of how kinks work, but it seems like, because from what I know of, like, these sort of kink things, it's all about communication and understanding of each other, and understanding what, like, having a conversation about, like, what your relationship entails and how this sort of dom-sub dynamic is going to work, so it doesn't actually feel abusive. And so they talk about their boundaries, and, you know, like, they have days where they don't do anything, like, they relax that dynamic, like, things like that, and that's kind of what they touch on in this film. Like, having that sort of, like, fairness and power balance. Whereas this felt, even though it was, like, enjoyable, it was very, like, a very disorganized, kinky relationship. Where it was, like, it wasn't like they were able to communicate at all what they liked and what they didn't like. It's, like, and again, is that just how that works? Like, it's like, I'm not familiar with this kind of, like, real actual, like, dom sub culture. Like, the proper, like, ownership culture kind of thing, where it's like, like, that person within certain bounds is, like, your property, and some people like to be owned and things like that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that if, like, you enjoy that. Again, I'm not here to kink shame, because I really want to understand this. I really want to understand this movie, because it's a part of a world and a sexual dynamic that, oh shit, it's a world of a sexual dynamic that I know very little about. So I'm like keen to like hear from other people what they think of this movie. I'm genuinely so fucking keen to like hear what people think of this movie, or like what people interpret from this movie, because I get a really sad energy from it. But as if there's anyone who's watching this that is familiar with that sort of kinky like world, am I misunderstanding this? Genuinely never been more curious about like the ending of a movie in a while, so that is a great sign. Loved the movie, it was amazing. And films are meant to like expose you to different cultures and messagings and things like that, so I'm really keen to understand it a bit more. But so I got to do some research, and I might circle back, I might not, but either way, go see Pillion, and I would love to hear people's thoughts on it, because wow, that was a interesting watch. Okay, so we went digging. I went digging for looking around just for people's interpretation of the ending of this movie. And people have some varying opinions on it. People have very varying opinions, because some people, there was one person I read that was very upset about like the portrayal of a BDSM relationship, and saying that they tried to portray it as abusive, which is in fact not what it is. And that's what I mentioned in the car. I was like, it doesn't seem like it's trying to showcase this kink accurately, because I don't think it's normally this like, doesn't come with this much strife, because there's a lot of communication involved. So I think the idea was that, to me, what somebody said is that Ray takes advantage of Colin's naivety in this sort of relationship dynamic, takes advantage of it. And so Ray's going through this stuff, and he's not questioning it, because he's like, oh, this is like, he seems so certain this is normal. And Ray's not like, and Ray's not giving him anything like at all. And so Colin's just left like, oh, this must be just what it is. And he's mistaking that intimacy that he's getting, that sexual intimacy he's getting from this relationship, as real intimacy. And yeah, that like it like mistakes it for real intimacy. And so he has no frame of reference of what like a real relationship looks like, so he's just accepting whatever Ray's giving him. But then there's a great deal of conflict on what the ending means, like what people think about the ending. Because I thought, my interpretation of that was, Ray like was slowly developing like more of an attraction or a connection to Colin throughout it. And hence like moments where like, because they have these moments of like where things seem like almost normal for a second, and it's like then it continues on, and then he's like asks if he can sleep in the bed. He says sleep in the bed with me, and they like cuddle, and it's like kind of a little bit more romantic and stuff, and then that settles down, and then he decides to give him like a vanilla day, and and then he kisses him, and it's like it feels like a very like swept up moment. Like it feels like a very like passionate, like impulsive moment shared between the two, that kiss that they have. And then that's the moment to me when Ray realizes that his connection with Colin has gone too far for him to handle, so he disappears. But a lot of people interpret it a different way. Some people say that it's Ray's way of conveying to him that like, this is what you want, and that's not something I can give. Like this sort of like vanilla romantic day. Some people deem it as like a final, like, you know, like a pat on the head, a little pat on the back before he fucks off. He's like, you know what, I'll do him this favor before I cut him out of my life completely. And some people view it as like a toxic power play, like just like something to torment him. Like because before this, like they go out for this like sort of day, Colin lashes out at Ray and like steals his bike and like creates a scene in his house. And that I honestly, that is what I could probably more see than the other two. My one to me sounds the most correct. But it's also not about being correct with these kind of things. It's great that there's so many different interpretations of it. But yeah, so there's a lot of different interpretations of it. mine to me makes the most sense. There was someone who was really upset about apparent like how they felt that it portrayed a BDSM style, like a dom sub relationship, but I don't think that, to me, that didn't strike me as the intention of the movie. It never, none of the scenes where they were like, where it was the real kink stuff, felt like it impacted Colin positively, except for when the attention was on him and they were like fucking. But apart from that, it always seemed like Colin was like, felt upset by not being able to have his attention, and like it felt like that the situations were always upsetting Colin, and they never seemed to be portrayed like nicely, at least the dynamic between the two characters, because the other ones, because the other like people, the other like bikers and their pillions, I think they call them pillions, like I think that's the idea, like the pillion is the person who rides in the passenger seat or something. They seem to have very good balances on it, but Ray doesn't seem to. Like, they seem to have, like, a very, like, nice, like, sort of situation going on, or at least a situation that has, like, communications of some kind. And I don't think Ray has that. I think Ray, like, takes advantage of Colin. But yeah, I'm, like, kind of feel like I'm jumping from thing to thing here, but yeah, I think the film wasn't trying to portray a dom sub relationship accurately. I just think they were using the backdrop of that sort of context to inform their relationship and Colin's confusion in it, and Ray, like, to give Colin a reason to stay, like, to a Colin a reason to stay in it, because it's like, he's like, oh well, this is what it should be. Okay, we're back. My phone ran out of storage, so I need to I needed to clear some things out. But yeah, can't remember where I was at in the fucking grand scheme of it all. But yeah, I think that, yeah, I think I remember saying, so yeah, I think that the BDSM dom sub relationship is just kind of a backdrop to give them a reason to stick around for so long, and to give it like an interesting sort of backdrop, and to make the confusion seem feasible. Because with Colin, he's never been in this kind of relationship before, so when Ray's kind of taking advantage of him, he just interprets that as what a dom sub relationship is, so he doesn't know to stick up for himself or leave or do anything like that. Whereas, and Ray, it gives him a reason to be so, like, to give you a bit of confusion as an audience member, a bit of confusion into why he treats Colin this way, because you're like, oh, maybe this is just part of it. And it gives Ray, like, a reason to, like, it gives Ray just a reason to be the way that he is towards Colin. It gives you, like, sort of a context. But yeah, like, so it just, like, I think it gives a reasonable frame for why their relationship gets so difficult. Whereas if it was just, like, two people that met, I think that it would just be an easier cut situation of just, like, oh, well, they should just, if he's being awful to you, when it's just a regular relationship where you just met, like, online, or you wanted to go, you like started like going on dates, and then they start being cruel to you, I think it would be a lot easier to like rationalize the idea of just leaving. Whereas with Colin, he just feels like this is what it's supposed to be, because he's not informed on kink culture. Yeah, and I remember also seeing some people write that they were like, I think we should have like seen more of Ray, like a little like flashback sequence or something like that to tell us like why he is the way he is. But I think that that's kind of the point. You're not meant to know anything about him. He's like a steadfast mystery, and that's exactly the way that Colin feels. You're kind of meant to empathize with Colin, right? And the thing with Colin is that he knows nothing about Ray. He has no way of knowing anything about it, because Ray won't tell him anything. And same thing with us. We don't have any perception of who he is, of who Ray is, or what Ray's about, or why he is this way. So yeah, I'm sticking to my guns on what I feel. I think that, like, at least sticking to my interpretation, because that makes the most sense to me. I think that it's a situation where it's somebody who doesn't want to be alone and really craves romance and intimacy, and because they feel so, like, they long for that so much, they'll take it in whatever form it comes, especially if it's like, and especially if it comes from someone who is conventionally handsome as Ray. And in the gay world, sometimes you just accept the most unconventional or unpleasant types of love if it just means you can feel desired and wanted by somebody. And I think that's like kind of Colin's arc throughout the thing. He's just like doesn't know. He's like he just wants to be loved by this guy it doesn't by this guy who cannot give him the same thing. Whether that's because he's aromantic. Someone said it could be an aromantic, like he like Ray is an aromantic figure. That was an angle I didn't really think about. I was like, that could be true. It could be that he's just aromantic and unable to give it to him because he just doesn't feel romance in that way, or he does feel romance in that way, and it does link. It was getting more and more throughout the movie, and it got to a point where he wasn't able to face the idea of a real relationship with Colin, so he runs away. It's either way. Wanting the idea between them is wanting the kind of love that somebody can't give you, for whatever reason that is, and that is sad, really fucking sad. But God, it was done really, really well, in my opinion. And yeah, also, that intimacy coordinator is working overtime. That was one of the most sexually explicit films I've ever fucking seen. But what's so great is that that's not what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about how sexually explicit that movie was, because I'm thinking about the storyline that was portrayed and how moving that was, instead of like the shock of like the prosthetic dicks and the dick sucking scenes and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the more I talk about it, the more I like it. The more I really fuck with it. But Pillion, absolutely go see it. Honestly, period. Part of me wants to say 5 stars. Part of me wants to say 5 stars. I do. I do really want to say that. Like, yeah. Anyway. Much love. Pillion, go see it. If you care about, the trials and tribulations of sucking dick and cock.